They're watching us next door.
Hi, Mr. Sheehan.
All right, I think we're ready to go. All right, Academic Challenge. This is the 7 o'clock p.m. show on November 3rd, 2015. And we will begin in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Academic Challenge. I'm Ray Gustafson, your host and moderator. Today we're featuring teams from Coloma and St. Joseph. WSJM's Academic Challenge features scholastic competition involving high schools from around Southwest Michigan. Academic Challenge is sponsored by Berrien Springs Public Schools, Lake Michigan College, Lakeshore Public Schools, and the Cook Nuclear Plant. Let's meet the teams. First from Coloma. Say your name and what grade you're in.
Jared E., senior.
Naomi, junior.
Spencer, sophomore.
Caleb, sophomore.
Welcome to the Academic Challenge. Now move over to the St. Joseph side.
Patrick Fisher, senior.
Ryan Faulkner, senior.
Cameron Wright, junior.
Ryan Erickson, sophomore.
Welcome again to the Academic Challenge. We got the two Ryans on my on the St. Joseph side again here. So again, just remember when you guys do buzz in, make sure you let me call on you first before you answer the question. And if that's the case, I think we're about ready to go. Let me give you some basic rules. During the first and second halves, we'll announce the point value before he reads the question. When you press your button, again, wait to be recognized. There's no consultation allowed except during the 60-second round. And again, I'm Ray Gustafson, your scorekeeper and judge. And today, Bill Klein will be asking the questions. Is everybody ready to go? All right, we will start the time, and we will begin as soon as he finishes reading that first question.
For 5 points, a country song says, "I only miss you on the days that end in Y." How many days would that be?
Cameron from St. Joe.
7.
That's correct for 5 points. For 5 points, in Gone with the Wind, Rhett Butler persuades Scarlett to call her store Caveat Emporium. She didn't realize this derived from what?
Jared from Coloma.
Latin?
More specific.
I don't know.
Then it's incorrect.
Incorrect. St. Joe, you want to give it a shot? He's going to groan when you say it.
Yeah, it was Latin, but it's the "let the buyer beware." 10 points. What 16th century explorer was buried with a pipe and a box of tobacco?
Ryan E. from St. Joe.
John Rolfe.
Incorrect.
Coloma, give it a shot.
Just the anniversary of his death last week, Sir Walter Raleigh. For 10 points, what plant is the most common cause of hay fever?
Patrick from St. Joe.
Ragweed?
That is correct for 10 points. For 15 points, name the poet who is referred to as the poet of democracy or America's greatest press agent. Walt Whitman. For 10 points, who was the general of the U.S. Army who led the landing of D-Day on Normandy?
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Eisenhower.
Incorrect. It was Omar Bradley. For 15 points, which city-state capitol building, built in 1788, is considered the first building of the classical revival style in the United States? The city's state capitol building.
Patrick from St. Joe.
Boston?
Incorrect.
Coloma, want to give it a try?
Richmond, Virginia.
Remember, you don't lose points for answering incorrectly, so it's always worth taking a chance, even if you think you're close to it.
For 20 points, Benjamin was Joseph's younger brother. Name the eldest brother who refused to participate in Joseph's kidnapping and death.
Patrick from St. Joe.
James.
Incorrect. Reuben. For 10 points, the huge stone statue on Easter Island were sculpted by which of the three major cultures of the Oceania?
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Polynesia.
That is correct for 10 points. For 15 points, in politics, what is meant by the term log rolling?
Patrick from St. Joe.
Changing stance on a topic.
Incorrect.
Coloma, I want to give it a try.
It's an arrangement by which two or more members of Congress agree in advance to support each other's bills. Never happens anymore.
Yeah.
For 5 points, what is used to transfer voices and photographs over the phone, to weld car parts, attach retinas, and cut metal?
Spencer from Coloma.
Lasers.
That is correct for 5 points.
About 5 minutes left.
For 15 points, in Roman mythology, she was one of the Capitoline Triad, whose deities enshrined in temples on that hill. She was the goddess of light and counsel and marriage. What was her name?
Jared from Coloma.
Hera.
Incorrect.
Cameron from St. Joe.
Juno.
That is correct for 15 points. For 10 points, what word describes a number of synthetic resins that are used in the production of clothing? It is generally used in a sort of derivative way now.
Patrick, St. Joe.
Polyester.
That is correct for 10 points. For 15 points, what object weighs 3 pounds, uses 20 watts of power, and stores 100 billion bits of information?
Patrick, St. Joe.
Hard drive.
Incorrect.
Spencer from Coloma.
Brain.
That is correct for 15 points. For 5 points, what is the usual result of seeding with silver iodide?
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Silver precipitate.
That is correct for 5 points. For 15 points, what was China's last imperial dynasty?
Spencer from Coloma.
Qing.
That is correct for 15 points. For 5 points, what name is applied to New World vultures, especially the turkey vulture?
Patrick, St. Joe.
Condor.
Incorrect. You're going to love this one. Buzzard. For 5 points, this is a math question.
Get your pencils.
The average Englishman consumes 2,000 cups of tea each year. That's how many cups per day, assuming 365 days per year?
Patrick from St. Joe.
6.
Incorrect.
Coloma, 5 seconds. You want to try it?
5.5. For 10 points, this Hollywood landmark used to be called Grauman's Chinese Theater. What's it called now?
Patrick, St. Joe.
The Dolby Theater.
Incorrect. It's the Man's Chinese Theater. For 10 points, what did Federal Communications Commission Chairman Newton Minow described as a vast wasteland in 1961?
Cameron from St. Joe.
Grand Canyon.
Incorrect.
Jared from Coloma.
Death Valley.
Television. Federal communications. That was the key.
Right.
For 5 points. Both Cybex and Universal are brands of what?
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Production companies.
More specific.
Movie production companies.
Incorrect. Exercise equipment. For 15 points. What is kai in karate?
I just want to hear you say that again.
No.
Naomi just got in from Coloma.
Cantaloupe.
Pretty good. I like
St. Joe, I'll give you a chance since she got in right under the buzzer. Anybody want to try? Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Yes.
It's a shout of self-assertion. It's the like the Southern battle cry.
Well, that's the end of the first half of today's academic challenge. We'll be back with the score and the 60-second round after this on WSJM, the news and talk of Michigan's Great Southwest.
Oh, she said.
When in doubt,
Wait,
churches
or
finish
I didn't do anything past
No,
that.
just
These are all bad. No.
Definitely not churches. That's the. Oh.
Oh yeah, totally true.
fun.
Definitely not that.
Maybe because it might be like. Yeah, like Notre Dame.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Wait. Opening lines. It's like opening lines to a book or movie or something.
Yeah, that could be really hard though.
I think we should do.
People, if you're ready, let's move on.
Verse or music verse.
Guys all ready? Okay, let's begin the 60-second round. And we will begin that in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Academic Challenge on WSJM. At the end of the first half, the score is Coloma 35, St. Joseph 55. Now on to the 60-second round. Teams, you have 3 categories to choose from. We'll give you 60 seconds to answer as many of the 10 questions as you can. Each one is worth 10 points. There will be a 20-point bonus if you answer all 10 within the 60 seconds. You are encouraged to consult with one another at this time, but make sure the answers come from the team captains. After that minute is up, the opposing team will have a chance to answer any questions the first team couldn't answer. So, Coloma, you are trailing at the moment. I'll give you a choice of these, one of these 3 categories. We have opening lines, churches, or finish the verse. Jared, are you the team captain?
Yes.
So what choice would you like to choose?
Finish the verse.
Finish the verse. We will put 60 seconds on the clock, and the 60 seconds will begin as soon as he is done reading that first question.
I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they...
Pass.
All in the valley of death. All in the valley of death rode the...
Pass.
A jug of wine, a loaf of bread.
Pass.
A thing of beauty is a...
Pass.
I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth.
Pass.
Jack Sprat could eat no fat. His wife could eat no lean. And so between them both, you see, they licked...
The plate clean.
That's a correct answer. Candy is dandy, but liquor...
Yeah,
Is
time's
quicker.
up. Yeah, well, time's up on that.
Yeah, but
All
he
right.
started it. So
Did they start it?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
we'll give
he
you
gets-
credit. Yep, because he started it. Okay, good. So you ended up with 2 out of the 10, so you got 20 points on that one, Coloma. So that means St. Joe, there are 8 remaining questions. We'll put 60 seconds on the timer. We'll have a chance to answer those questions. And again, I will only take the answers from Patrick. Make sure you guys consult with one another. It's okay for you to talk to one another during the 60-second round. So we'll put 60 seconds on for St. Joe to see if they can steal some questions, some answers, and it'll begin when you finish that first question.
I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they...
Shall protect me.
Incorrect. It's comfort me. All in the valley of death rode the...
Men.
600. A jug of wine, a loaf of bread.
Pass.
You can't pass in this round.
Oh, dead.
And thou. A thing of beauty is a
Curse.
a joy forever. I shot an arrow into the air. It fell to earth.
Upon my head.
I know not where. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as...
A tree.
Correct. The time has come, the walrus said, to talk
To me.
of many things. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, and of someone gently rapping at my
Door. Chamber door.
Correct.
Okay, we'll give it to you. All right, so you ended up with 2 as well. So each Coloma got 2 for 20 points, St. Joe 2 for 20 points. Now we'll turn the tables and let St. Joe pick from 2 of the remaining categories. So, Patrick from St. Joe, what would be the remaining categories are opening lines and churches.
We'll
Which
go
one
with churches.
Churches it is. We will put 60 seconds back on that timer, and we'll begin as soon as he finishes reading that first question.
On St. Joseph's Day each year, where do the swallows return?
To church.
Incorrect. San Antonio de Valero served as a fortress in 1836 during a 2-week siege and is better known as what?
The Alamo.
That is correct. Quasimodo was the bell ringer for what parish church?
Notre Dame.
Correct. Name of the cathedral in London where that's the burial place for all kings of England.
Is it St. Paul's?
St. Paul's Cathedral.
Incorrect. What's the largest Christian church in Europe?
Pass.
Second Baptist Church in what southeast Texas city is the largest Southern Baptist church in the world?
Houston.
Correct. In what London cathedral were Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer married in 1981?
Westminster Abbey.
Incorrect.
Time's up. All right, you got 3 correct. That means there's 7 remaining for Coloma to steal. And Coloma, we'll take the answer from Jared. Make sure you guys talk it out. And we'll put 60 seconds on the clock. And the 60 seconds will begin as soon as he finishes reading the first question.
On St. Joseph's Day each year, where do the swallows return?
St. Patrick's Church.
San Juan Capistrano. Name the cathedral in London that's the burial place for all the kings of England.
St. Peter's.
Westminster Abbey. What is the largest Christian church in Europe?
Pass.
Well, you can't pass it this round.
Just take a guess.
The church.
St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. In what London cathedral were Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer married in 1981?
The church.
St. Paul's. What large Utah church features 375 members in its choir?
Time's up.
And we still give an answer though.
Mormon.
What?
The Mormon Church.
Need more specific.
Forget it.
It's Mormon, but it's a Mormon tabernacle.
All right. Okay. Well, that's the end of the 62nd round. And so what we will do is check the scores and conclude the game next here on WSJM, the news and talk of Michigan's Great Southwest.
Yeah, I knew nothing from either of those.
Yeah.
I knew the Alamos.
I knew Houston.
Thanks.
She was assassinations. It's good.
Sports talk.
Should have done.
All right, we'll get the changes in place here, and then we'll begin
Okay.
with
You're not cold.
Reggie Bush.
Vince Young.
Carson.
Blue best
Ooh.
was young.
You got in trouble for like
Yeah, you couldn't push a pile back then.
DAX.
family
Dax.
housing or something.
Yeah, it was pretty common back.
DAX.
Well, I wouldn't say common, but it happened.
But like got caught doing it and I was on pressure.
Chloe,
Like,
CHLOE.
That was SMU, wasn't it, to get the death penalty?
That was a long time ago though.
That was
Thank you.
only like
80s.
30 years.
It was a really long time ago.
Yeah, somewhat.
Jared. You got a little something to read about your school?
Yes.
Okay, Patrick, you all set to do that?
Okay, we gotta change these.
Yep, we need to change those out. So, why don't you, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and just get started with the introductions then.
Keep down.
Yep, that'd be fine. So, okay, let's continue on with the second half while she's changing out the names here, and I'll introduce you and let you say a little bit about your school. All right, second half of the academic challenge coming up in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to the Academic Challenge on WSJM. The score at the end of the 62nd round is Coloma 55 and St. Joe 105. It's now time to find out what's happening at each of our participating schools. We'll head to Coloma, and Jared, tell us about what's the happenings at Coloma.
All right. It was a great start to another great year over at Coloma. We've already had our first dance, our first choir concert, our fall sports ended on a good note last week, and we'll be having a blood drive soon. Recently, on October 30th, our high school dressed up for Halloween. We were very pleased to see all the creative and stylish costumes that runwayed themselves down the halls. Our high school marching band has had a great season this fall. They won first place at both Hastings and Grand Haven Internationals and received all ones at Festival. We're very proud of our fall sports teams as well, including our cross-country team who went to regionals, our boys soccer team that made it to districts, and our determined football team. Not to mention our volleyball girls who won districts recently. The girls have been doing well on and off the court, especially during their suicide prevention volleyball game. We were glad to have such a big turnout. Coloma's proud of all our fall teams and hope to see just as many determined go-get-'em players in our winter sports. With this being our first academic challenge game of the season, we're sure it'll be just as great as fall. And, of course, we'd also like to thank our sponsors like Michigan College, Berrien Springs Public Schools, Cook Nuclear Plant, Indiana Michigan Power, Lakeshore Lancers, and, of course, WSJM for having us.
Thank you, Jared. Patrick, what's going on at St. Joe?
Hello from St. Joe. Many exciting things are going on currently in our school. Our football team has advanced to the second round of the playoffs and will take on Edwardsburg this Friday. Our girls cross-country team finished first at regionals and will compete in the state meet this Saturday. Our quiz bowl team will take on the Lions Club this Thursday as they defend the Golden Brain Trophy. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Lake Michigan College, Berrien Springs Public Schools, Lakeshore Public Schools, Cook Nuclear Plant, and our host, WSJM.
Great, and welcome again to St. Joe. Well, let's continue on with the second half of the academic challenge. Again, we'll make sure you wait for me to call on you after you buzz in, and we'll begin with the second half as soon as you're ready, Bill.
For 5 points, what historic event took place December 17th, 1903, on the beaches of North Carolina that forever changed the world of travel for mankind and later?
Patrick from St. Joe.
First powered flight.
That is correct for 5 points.
Hold on just a second, Bill. I forgot we had some substitutions
Oh.
on the Coloma side. I forgot to introduce them. So would you say your name and what grade you're in, please?
I'm Chloe, and I'm in 12th grade.
Cool. Welcome, Chloe.
I'm Dax, and I'm a junior.
Perfect. Welcome, Dax.
I'm Carson, and I'm a freshman.
Great. Glad to have you on board. Sorry I didn't catch that right at the beginning. So, okay, next question, Joe.
Okay, for 10 points. There is a French phrase which means literally the bottom of the bag. It means a little dead-end street or an argument which goes nowhere. What is the phrase?
Ryan E. from St. Joe.
Cul-de-sac.
That is correct for 10 points. For 15 points, what is the degree measure of the smallest positive angle whose tangent is -1? An angle graphed in the second quadrant. Obviously, this is a math question.
You say it one more time, Bill.
A math question for 15. What is the degree measure of the smallest positive angle whose tangent is -1, an angle graphed in the second quadrant?
Jared from Coloma.
45.
Incorrect.
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
135.
That is correct for 15 points. For 15 points, the net mechanical work of an object equals the change in what quantity conserved in elastic collisions that equals...
Patrick from St. Joe.
Momentum.
Incorrect.
Finish the question.
That equals 1/2 mass times speed squared.
Chloe from Coloma.
Velocity.
Incorrect. It's kinetic energy. For 5 points, good guess though. For 5 points, after a 9-year legal battle, in 1984, U.S. court decision ruled that this trade name was a generic one and that Parker Brothers no longer had a monopoly over it. What is it?
Patrick from St. Joe.
Monopoly.
That's correct for 5 points. For 15 points, a theocracy is a country that is ruled by the church or its ministers. Tibet used to be a theocracy until it was captured by the People's Republic of China. The only country left in the world with a theocratic government is a very small territory.
Patrick from St. Joe.
Vatican City.
That is correct for 15 points. For 10 points, what American author and humorist made the following statement? Quote, I believe that our Heavenly Father invented man because he was disappointed in the monkey. End quote.
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Mark Twain.
That is correct for 10 points. For 5 points, what style of military march is associated with German Nazi soldiers and the Soviet Army? The goose step. For 20 points, believe it or not, the first time this opera was presented in Palermo, Italy, the audience was so enthusiastic that the entire performance had to be repeated. Identify the opera by Puccini.
Patrick from St. Joe.
Madame Butterfly.
Incorrect.
Coloma, want to try? Chloe from Coloma.
Phantom of the Opera? No? Okay.
Good
La
try.
Boheme.
La
A
Boheme.
math question for
Get-
20 points.
Get your pencils.
Change 80 degrees centigrade to the Fahrenheit scale. Change 80 degrees centigrade to the Fahrenheit scale.
Time's up.
176 degrees.
Anybody close?
I had 176. I was just about to push the button.
Oh, you hit it. For 5 points. It's bad for your health to be overweight. Why?
Chloe from Coloma.
It puts pressure on, the excess weight puts pressure upon your vital organs.
That is correct.
5
For
points.
5 points. Multiple choice question for 10 points. Ethan Allen defeated the British at Fort Ticonderoga, but Allen informed Congress that he and his Green Mountain Boys have been fighting solely for A, control of Lake Champlain, B, the chance to make Allen the first president, C, the right to incorporate New York State into Vermont, or D, the independence of Vermont.
Chloe from Coloma.
A.
Incorrect.
Cameron from St. Joe.
D.
No, that's correct. The Independence of Vermont. For 10 points. For 15 points, another math question. Any two consecutive prime numbers that differ by 2 are called twin primes. For example, 3 and 5 are twin primes, as are 5 and 7. Find 2 other sets of twin primes which are less than 20.
Chloe from Coloma.
11 and 13.
Incorrect.
Ryan E. from St. Joe.
11 and 13 and 17 and 19.
That is correct. 15 points. For 5 points, in the largest corporate settlement of its kind in U.S. history, BP will pay more than $20 billion in fines to settle almost all claims from its oil spill 5 years ago in what body of water?
Ryan F. St. Joe.
Gulf of Mexico.
That is correct for 5 points. For 10 points, the governor of which U.S. state recently signed into law a bill obliging his state to produce 50% of its electricity from renewable sources by 2030?
Ryan E. from St. Joe.
California.
That is correct for 10 points. For 10 points, South Africa in June allowed Omar al-Bashir to evade an arrest warrant and leave the country when he visited the president of that country. He is accused of masterminding genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes during his nation's Darfur conflict, and is wanted by the Hague-based tribunal, which issued a warrant for his arrest in 2009. Name Omar al-Bashir's country.
Patrick from St. Joe.
Rwanda.
Incorrect.
Carson from Coloma.
Zimbabwe.
Sorry, couldn't hear that.
Zimbabwe.
Incorrect. It's Sudan. For 5 points, he's helping settle a dispute between Martin Luther King Jr.'s children over whether or not to sell his 1964 Nobel Peace Prize medal and the Bible he carried during the Civil Rights Movement. Name the former U.S. president.
Ryan F. from St. Joe.
Lyndon B. Johnson.
Incorrect.
Coloma, want to give it a try? Chloe from Coloma.
Jimmy Carter.
Absolutely correct for 5 points. For 5 points, 2 air tragedies struck the same Southeast Asian airline in 2014. It lost Flight 17 to an attack over Ukraine.
Ryan F. St. Joe.
Malaysian Airlines.
That's correct for 5 points. For 10 points, it gained international notoriety for abducting over 200 teenage girls from a secondary.
Ryan E. from St. Joe.
Boko Haram.
That is correct for 10 points. For 10 points, which well-known public opinion polling company is dropping its daily presidential tracking poll?
Ryan E. from St. Joe.
Gallup.
That's correct for 10 points. For 5 points, tycoon and billionaire Barry Diller vows that he'll leave the country if this candidate is elected president.
Cameron from St. Joe.
Donald Trump.
That's correct for 5 points.
Well, that does it. That's the end of today's academic challenge match. We'll tabulate the scores and announce the winners after this on WSJM, the news and talk of Michigan's Great Southwest. All right, let me get stuff together here, and then we'll do the quick wrap-up, guys.
What?
I did okay.
I knew that, but I didn't know if it was for sure the right answer.
Okay, let me do the wrap-up here, and then we'll get you guys out of here.
All right.
All right, the wrap-up coming up in 3, 2, 1. We're back on WSJM's Academic Challenge to announce today's winner and, of course, thank our sponsors. The winners by a score of 235 to 65 is the team from St. Joe. So congratulations, St. Joe. Thank you to all of us joining on the Academic Challenge, brought to you by Lakeshore Public Schools, Lake Michigan College, Berrien Springs Public Schools, and the Cook Nuclear Plant. Join us again next week at this time as Berrien Springs and New Buffalo go head-to-head on Academic Challenge.
Good job, guys.
Nice job.
Nice job.
Nicely
Nice
done.
job.
So,
We just